There we go. All right. So for problem number 1, the value of an antique has increased exponentially as shown in the graph below. Ooh, there's that word, exponentially. Remember how we were talking about this in the bell ringer? Exponential growth is not constant. So this is not a linear function. How do we know that that is not linear? What is it? What do we look for on a graph? If it was linear, what would it look like?
A straight line.
Straight line. Yeah, so this is not linear, this is exponential. Okay, based on the graph, estimate the average rate of change in value of the antique from 0 to 40 years. So look at that, it's telling you where to look. It's telling you where to look. It says go to those 2 points on the graph, 0, 1000 and 40, 5000. So it's telling you where to look, and then we can use the rate of change formula to figure out the average rate of change. So we plugged in y2 and y1, x2 and x1, and we end up with 100. And our units, by the way, $100 per year. Do I have any questions on number 1? And as you guys will see, the first like 4 or 5 problems are all about rate of change. So we'll be doing this formula a couple of times. All right, problem number 2 is very similar. Problem number 2, Carrie wants to find out how the area of a circle will change as the radius increases in length. Carrie makes a table. What is the average rate of change in the area as the radius changes from 2.5 to 5.5 feet? So again, it's telling you where to look. It's telling you where to look, and then you use your formula to figure out the rate of change. So I kind of started this, but I haven't finished it. So let's finish it together. I used those values from the table. I plugged in my y2, y1, x2, x1. What do I get in the numerator? 94.99 minus 19.63.
75.36 over 3.
Good. And in this example, we will want to take, divide, because our final answer can be a decimal. How do I know that I can use decimals?
Because it's using the decimals are already in the chart.
Right, in the problem, it already gives me things in decimals. So since the problem has decimals, my answer has to match. So I know that I need a decimal. And I see it in the chat. When we divide, we get 25.12. So that is correct, 25.12. This is a kind of a weird unit, but can anyone tell me what the units are?
Radius, point square feet.
Kind of. So the units are the ones that are in parentheses usually. So in this case, it would be feet per square feet. It's kind of a weird one. Usually it's 2 different types of units, but in this case, that's what we got, feet per square feet. All right, questions on this one? All right, cool. Very similar again. All right, number 3. The tables below show the values of 4 different functions for given values of x. Which table represents a linear function? So if I'm looking to figure out which one is linear, what am I looking for?
A straight and constant line.
Constant, yeah, that's the word, constant. Constant rate. Now on a graph, it would be a line, but since we don't have a graph, we have tables, right? So on a table, we're looking for a constant pattern, constant rate. All right, so looking at these, there's a couple of ways to do this. One way to do this would be just to notice the pattern between each number. So for example, from 12 to 19, what happens?
Well, what I did, I took away 19 or 12 and they gave me 7.
7, right? You're adding 7. And then what about from 19 to 26? If you do the same thing.
7.
Also 7. And then the last one?
Also 7.
Also 7.
Also 7. So what do you guys, does that have a constant rate?
Yes.
It does. Now, if you tried this with each of the other tables, here, what happens? Plus
2.
Plus 2.
2,
Plus 2, plus 4, plus 8.
or plus 8. Definitely not constant. So you're really just looking for that pattern. You're looking for that constant rate. Now, in this problem, I would say this one was pretty easy because the numbers were very easy to work with. But if you ever have a problem where usually like if you have a real world scenario and it's all decimals and it's big numbers and things like that, I would also, one thing you can do is just see if the slope is the same. So you can use your slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and you want to check the slope between the first two. So plug those numbers in, then do it again between the second two values, and then do it again between the third two values. Do it 3 times the charm, and if it matches each time, you know you're good to go. So on this type of problem, 2 different strategies. If the numbers are easy, if the numbers are simple, like here, you can just check for that pattern. If the numbers are a little bit bigger, they have decimals, they're a little more challenging to work with, use the formula, check it 3 times, make sure it matches. Any questions on that? Awesome. All right, number 4. I also worked on this one with a different group, but let's do it together. This is the type of problem, by the way, when you are taking a test where you want to, if there's a lot of words on the page, you want to see how many of those words are important and how many of those words don't really matter to you. In this case, there's a lot of words that are just, they're not going to help you out. So while you're reading this, kind of think about what's important and what's not. All right, in order to lure new customers to a credit card, the bank is offering an initial cashback award plus cashback amounting to a percentage of the value of all purchases made with the card. Was any of that useful?
No.
No. So you might start this problem and read that and then be like, I have no idea what's happening, and that's just going to freak you out. Notice that you don't even really need to read all of that because at the end of the day, the question is, if P is the value of all purchases made with the card and C is the amount cash back, which of these equations does the graph represent? That is all that matters. Always make sure you highlight, underline the actual question, because everything else in that problem did not help me. I didn't need to read all of that. All I need to know is which equation matches. And I know how to do that. All I have to do is make sure that the slope matches and that the y-intercept matches. So what we had to do in this problem was calculate the slope. Pick 2 points, you can either use rise over run or the slope formula. And then with that, we realized that the slope was 0.03. So we got 3 over 100, but then we converted that to a decimal and we got 0.03, which matched with answer choice A. All of them had the same y-intercept, so that was not going to help me out in this problem. Questions on number 4? Is this a positive slope or a negative slope?
Positive.
Positive.
Yeah. So is that the value growing or decreasing?
Growing.
Growing, increasing, exactly. Not by much, but it is increasing. All right. Slope man or slope girl, yeah, that's going to help you out. So as a reminder, slope man, negative, positive. And we haven't done this in a minute, but What's his nose? What type of slope is that?
Unidentified something.
Yeah, very, very close. Undefined.
Un-
Undefined. What about his mouth? Yeah, his little cheeks tell you 0. Why did we not divide? Do you mean like 3 divided by 100? Bianca? $30 over 1,000. We could have divided. In fact, if you go to your calculator right now and you do 30 divided by 1,000, you'll still get 0.03. The reason we didn't do that is because I just wanted to practice how to convert from a fraction to a decimal without using a calculator. So it's just a skill that we have to make sure we're practicing, because on the test, we all know part 1 is no calculator. So we have to feel comfortable doing this without a calculator as well. That's the only reason. All right, question number 5. Now we're getting into the actual matching equations. So this is very, very close to what this would look like on a test. I have the equation 5y minus 3x equals negative 15. What form is that written in?
Standard.
Standard.
Standard. And what do we know about standard form?
Nothing.
Yeah, it's useless. It doesn't tell us that much. So what do we need to do to this equation in order to match it with the correct graph?
Formula slope intercept.
Convert it to slope intercept. Good job, ladies. Here we go. Converting this to slope intercept, what should I do first?
Plus x.
Add 3x.
Good. What do I get on the other side?
3x negative 15.
Minus 15.
Good. 3x minus 15. And then finally,
Divided by 5.
divided by 5. And let's use that. What do we get when we divide?
3/5.
Mm-hmm.
3.
Minus, you said minus 3?
Yes.
Yeah. 3/5 x minus 3. So now what do I know about this graph?
The slope and the y-intercept.
Yeah, the slope is 3 over 5. The y-intercept is negative 3. So what answer choices can I get rid of and why?
C and D.
Good. What's wrong about C and D?
They're not passing through the y-intercept.
Good. This C and D both have the wrong y-intercept. They have it at the 5. It should be at the negative 3. So now between A and B, they both have the correct y-intercept, but which one is the one with the correct slope?
B.
B.
Graph B.
Good, graph B. Positive 3 over 5. I know it has to be a positive graph. A was negative. B is correct. Again, you could have used SlopeMan. SlopeMan could have helped you out with that one. Or you could have gone in and actually calculated the slope and notice this goes up 3 and over 5. 3 over 5. Any other questions on number 5? Awesome. Number 6, which function is represented by the input-output table below? All right, so now I have a table that I need to match. On this table, what do I need to go and figure out first?
You need to figure out what the x is.
Yeah, so I need to match. What do I need to calculate though?
The slope.
Yeah, the slope. Because I need to know 2 things. I need to match the slope and the y-intercept. But luckily, if I do 1, even if I just find out the slope, I should get the right answer. So let's do that. So I need to pick 2 points, any 2 points. Anyone want to volunteer? Give me a point to choose.
1 and 3.
1 and 3, sounds good. And now I go through and I go into my formula. So this would be 11 minus 5 over 3 minus 1. What's 11 minus 5?
6.
6. What is 3 minus 1?
2,
2. 6 divided by 2?
3.
3. So answer is, which was the only correct one? Good, Bianca, A. That's all I needed to do. Luckily, in this problem, as long as I figure out the slope, I was able to eliminate all the other answer choices.
Yes, I did so much extra work.
You did extra work. What did you do?
I did everything.
So another strategy, and I see Alyssa's putting this in the chat as well. There's another strategy, but it does require a little bit more work. What you could have done also is to pick a point, like 1,5, let's say, and then plug it in and see if it matches. So for example, I could have plugged in 1, and I should get 5. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5. So this matches. All right, so this would have been another strategy that you could use, but at the end of the day, as long as you calculate the slope, you can also pick the correct answer from that. Any other questions? Now, let's say, just because, you know, these tests can be challenging, let's say another answer choice was the following. What would I need to do then if to choose between A and E?
Input. I mean,
Yeah, Bianca's got it. Find the B, find the y-intercept, exactly. So I would have had to make sure that the y-intercept also matched. So sometimes, as long as you find the slope, you're good, but sometimes you also have to figure out the y-intercept and make sure that matches as well. If we have time at the very end, maybe I'll go back and show you guys how to do that one last time. If not, we will definitely review that on Monday. All right, problem 7. This one is a challenging one, kind of, because it kind of asks this question in a weird way. So this is saying which graph represents a function, f of x, that has a slope of 3 units and f of 0 equals 14. Okay, what do you guys think? What can I at least start out with?
three, 4, x. I mean, you're ready to change them.
Yeah, so we can at least eliminate some answers because the slope has to be positive 3. So which of these can I eliminate right off the bat?
A and D.
D.
A, good. A and D, because A and D both have a negative slope. All right, now let me zoom in a little bit. Now the other part of this is that f of 0 has to be 14. Can anyone translate that? This is function notation.
Is that the y-intercept?
Well,
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay, Lauren said it. This, when the input is 0, what point is that asking about?
0, 14.
Yeah, this is 0, 14. This is asking me about the y-intercept. Nice job.
I did it a little differently.
You also had the correct, you were saying 0, 14. That's the same idea.
I just put it like 3x plus 14y, and that's it.
Well, in any case, which answer choice does that match with?
C.
Look for the y-intercept.
Oh, okay, B.
B, yeah. B is the one that matches because this is 0, 14. It was a little bit hard to see. I know that these graphs were a little small. On a test, you know, you can always zoom in on your computer, but that was it. So this one, I definitely wanted to put this problem up because they love to use function notation, and we need to always remember what it's actually saying. So when it says f of 0, that means the input is 0 and the output is 14. Questions on number 7? Awesome. All right, number 8. Word problems. Would anyone like to read this one?
John and his three brothers share a cell phone plan. The cell phone company charges a flat rate of $90 per month, which the four brothers share equally. In addition, the cell phone company charges 25 cents per megabyte and data downloaded. Each brother pays for his own downloaded data. John shares the current cell phone bill is one point, 147.50 cents, which equation determines how many megabytes of data John downloaded.
Awesome. Thank you, Naomi. All right. So there's a lot going on here, isn't there? A lot of information. They don't make this easy for you. Let's highlight some stuff. So we know that, all right, we have a flat rate of $90 a month, which the four brothers share equally. That's going to be important. In addition, the cell phone plan, okay, 25 cents per megabyte of data downloaded. And his share was $147.50. Okay. So in order to figure out the correct answer, two things have to happen. First, we have to figure out which of those numbers is the slope. And then second of all, there's a little bit of math that needs to go into it. So can anyone try and talk me through it? What needs to happen?
We need to figure out how much the brothers pay per month. So
yeah.
What I did is I divided.
Right, because we know $90 per month, but then they share that equally, and there's four of them. So 90 divided by 4, what do you get?
22.5.
22.5. So what answer choices can I get rid of?
A and B.
A and B. Good. All right. And now, really, the only thing we're trying to see is where does the X go? Does the X go with the megabytes? So is it 25 cents per megabyte that's the slope, or is it the $22.5 per month that's the slope?
0.25 megabytes.
22.5x.
Ooh, we're kind of divided. It's a little tricky. So here's where we're going to be very careful. He pays $147.50, right? Is that number going to be for 1 month or for like 1 year or 1 day? What do you guys think?
1 month.
That's for 1 month.
For 1 month, exactly. Since we're only talking about 1 month, the 22.5 per month doesn't really matter because we're only talking about 1 month right now. The one that does matter is the 25 cents per megabyte. So in that case, which one's my slope?
0.25x.
0.25x, exactly. So the answer is actually C. Because we're only talking about 1 month, so 22.5, he's just paying that one time. And then on top of that, 25 cents per megabyte. So C was correct. This one's a little bit tricky. Does anyone have questions on this one?
Miss, didn't we do this before?
Yeah, this one has come up. I think this was on your last topic test, actually. But it's similar to what we're doing now, so that's why I wanted to bring it up. All right, 2 more, almost there. Got a couple more word problems. Oh, I love this one. This one's so weird because it's about chickens. I always read this one and I'm like, that's kind of a weird thing to measure, but okay. Who would like to read this one?
I'll read.
Go ahead, Ajira.
An agricultural researcher selected 8 chicken farms from across the state. The researcher recorded the number of hens and the number of eggs laid by those hens over a 24-hour period. The researcher then calculated a line of best fit for the data. The equation of the line of best fit was y equals 0.97x plus 3.06, where x represents the number of hens and y represents the number of eggs.
Awesome. All right. And then they want us to say, okay, which of these statements is true? So before we go into it, let's just understand. And this is slope-intercept form, right? So 0.97, is that the slope or the y-intercept?
y-intercept.
So, okay, hold on. So what's my slope? What's my y-intercept?
Your slope is 0.97.
Mm-hmm. And the y-intercept is 3.06. So the slope is the rate of change. Remember that when we talk about slope, what's the key word that I always bring up for slope? Per, each, every. Okay, rate of change. So when you look at our answer choices, are there any that I can eliminate based on that information? Alyssa says B and D. Good. How come I can eliminate B and D? And this goes for anyone.
3.06 is not the slope.
Right, 3.06 is not the slope. So 3.06 does not represent the average number per day. That keyword per, basically this question's asking, what does the slope represent? Okay, so
Is it because the 3.06 is the starting point?
yeah, exactly. 3.06 is the starting point, not the rate of change. So C and D are making it sound like 3.06 is the rate of change, which we know is not true. So those are out. But now let's look at the other two. So A, 0.97 represents the average number of eggs laid by a hen per day. Answer choice C says 0.97 represents the average number of hens that laid eggs per day. It's kind of confusing. This one, to be completely honest, when I first tried this problem, I was confused because it's talking about kind of a lot of things. So here's my trick for this. When you calculate slope, we know the formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? The y values go in the numerator and the x values go in the denominator. Well, here they're telling us what x and y represent. X is the number of hens and y is the number of eggs, right? So if I kind of think about it, this would be the number of eggs, whatever that is, divided by the number of hens, chickens. So if I wanted to write this using words, we always want to use the word per. So this would be eggs per hen. The number of eggs laid by each hen. So rereading the problem, again, the answer that matches that statement would be answer choice. I see it in the chat. Answer choice A, because this is telling me the number of eggs laid by a hen, not the number of hens that laid eggs. It's eggs per hen, not hens per egg. So C kind of had it backwards. This one was really weird. It was a little hard. Does anyone have questions? We only have about 3 minutes, so I'm just going to quickly head over to the last problem, which is similar to our bell ringer. We want to select the situations that can be modeled by a linear function. So we want to get rid of anything that has to do with percentages or multiplication. So can anyone tell me which answer choices I can get rid of?
B.
B is out. It's got a percent. Anything else out?
Doubles in size?
Very good, Ajira. Doubles. That's a multiplication word. So that one's also out. Everything else, how does it look? A taxi charges $2 and then $1.50 for each additional mile. That sounds good. An airplane flying at an altitude of 33,000 feet descends at a rate of 20 feet per minute. That's Speed, we're good. And then a pizza restaurant charges $5.50 per pizza and 50 cents for each additional topping. No multiplication there, we're good to go. A, C, and D. All right, y'all, that is all for today. Don't forget that the homework on Khan Academy is due at midnight tonight. So if you haven't finished it yet, make sure you work on that when you get home. Do I have any final questions on this topic?